Welcome to Friday Night Lights in Virginia, where Florida State wish those bright lights had been turned down.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the special reaction episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view post Virginia's upset of number 8 Florida State. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. This reaction episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Like the players for your favorite team, they sweat every detail at Mazda because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. I don't think that field storming qualified as safe for all involved, but you've got thousands upon thousands of fans on the field in Virginia. They're not going anywhere soon. By the time you're listening to or watching this show, they might still be there. What a game by the Cavaliers. They get out to an early lead. 14-0. Florida State, you think they've woken up? You think Florida State has found their groove as a top 10 team? The same squad with Tommy Castellanos and Castellanos, beg your pardon. Tommy Castellanos and Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell and the Florida State defense. You thought they'd figured it out. They rattled off 21 straight points only to lose in double overtime. This isn't a game Virginia wins. This isn't a game the program normally has. What a day for Tony Elliott. The highest of vibes in Charlottesville. The highest of possible vibes go there. Bad vibes for Florida State. Bad vibes. Season's not actually over. Long way to go for FSU. They've got marquee matchups. They've got chances to win the game. I was hesitant to buy into Florida State after their win against Alabama. I feel vindicated in this particular moment. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. There's a lot of football left. But this is a disaster scenario for the ACC. Absolute full-fledged disaster. Because the conference just had, for the most part, a pretty horrible non-conference slate. They did not perform well. They had ugly performances against the Big 12, against the SEC. Their record was the worst of the Power 4 in Power 4 non-conference games. Not to mention Virginia Tech got blasted by Old Dominion. Now, the saving grace for the ACC has been, well, you've got the two at the top. You've got Miami, you've got Florida State, and I always went, Florida State's right there. Miami's a better team. They're going to play later this year in the strangest scheduling arrangement I've seen, where Miami has a bye before and after the game and then plays 7 straight games. I don't really get how that works, frankly. But for Florida State in this spot, their chances of being an at-large playoff team way down. They just went way, way down. And I don't know who else in the ACC is getting there. Maybe it's Georgia Tech. Maybe Georgia Tech is an 11-12 win team in the regular season. You're asking a lot of the Yellow Jackets in that particular spot. But Florida State, for the rest of the year, their schedule goes like this. They've got Miami up next on October 4th. That's next week. Then they play Pitt, Stanford, Wake Forest, at Clemson. I don't know what to make of that game. I really don't. Clemson's not very good, or are they? Are they going to figure out? I don't know. We'll see. Virginia Tech, at NC State, at Florida. It's not the worst schedule in the world, but outside of Alabama, where are the big wins? And how do you think this win is going to be perceived by the playoff committee and AP voters alike, who, of course, kind of feed off one another, more the committee from the AP based on what we've seen in recent years? Do you think they're going to give Virginia a lot of credit, who lost their first ACC game of the year to NC State? Do you think they're going to say, well, we understand. The ACC is a tough league. Winning on the road on a Friday night is difficult. That is incredibly difficult. No, I don't think they are. So this puts a pretty hard dent into the plans for the ACC to get 2 teams into the college football playoff. And if you're someone who over the last couple of years has been worried the playoff expansion is just going to be dominated by the Big Ten and the SEC, I don't know what to tell you right now. The Big 12's path, it's pretty narrow. As I'm recording the show, Arizona State and TCU are still playing. Sun Devils trying to stage a comeback there. We'll see how that game plays out. But this was just such a hugely stunning loss for Florida State. Now, I thought this would be close. This was one of my best bets of the week. Virginia played so well, they overcame the curse of being one of my best bets this week. That is how well Virginia played in this game. But for Florida State, the fundamental issue that they ran into in this spot, they could not stop Jamari Taylor and Xavier Brown, the Virginia running backs. Look, you probably don't know those guys' names. I'll be honest. I didn't have them off the top of my head going into tonight. I certainly remember them now. They helped Virginia run for 211 yards against Florida State. This had to have been, for Seminole fans, some level of deja vu. This had to have been a callback of the worst variety, by the way, to the Georgia Tech game last year, when there wasn't a huge passing threat. There was a passing threat, but, it was mostly neutralized. It was okay, but it was just run. Florida State did run the ball very well in this game. Tommy Castellanos is a really good football player. He threw it just okay, and the fourth and goal, I'll get to the fourth and goal, but Florida State ran the ball pretty well in this game. They went for 256, but they did not lose because of their offense. They lost because their defense failed to stop Virginia. This is one of the biggest wins, not in recent memory for Virginia, but of the Tony Elliott era. A guy who some people probably saw coming into this year as being somewhat on the hot seat. Florida State couldn't stop him. Could not stop them whatsoever. 211 yards. They got an interception at the end of regulation. They go into overtime, and Chandler Morris. Yeah, TCU, North Texas. He's at Virginia now. And he just beat the number 8 team in the country and threw a major wrench into the college football playoff race. I mean, a huge, gigantic wrench. I don't know where that metaphor comes from. I just know that it applies here. That's all that really matters in this spot. Virginia was the more physical team. This was a horrifically bad display of tackling by the Florida State defense. And their defensive coordinator, Tony White, is one of the best in all of college football. I don't think I can name 10. I don't know that I could name 5 defensive coordinators I'd rather have than Tony White. He had a bad day. I've seen Steph Curry go 2 of 12 from 3. I've seen him go 0 of 10 from 3 before. Sometimes really great players or coaches have bad days, and the defense for Tony White in this spot, I don't know that the play calls defensively are really what you should be upset at if you're a Florida State fan that's not pleased with this particular result. You should be upset at the fact that the players on the field weren't in the right frame of mind. Even when they stopped the run of Jamari Taylor or Xavier Brown, they didn't get him on the ground as often as they should. Virginia players caught passes and stayed up. Virginia players were able to gain extra yards over and over and over again. And you know what? Friday night games can get weird and crazy. And this one got weird and crazy with quite the field storming. It was incredible to watch. It did make me have the thought, boy, I don't know if that's safe. There's an FSU player in the end zone there. I hope everybody got out okay, because I don't know how that exactly worked. I imagine there will be a pretty good fine coming for Virginia. They probably won't care. They probably will not care. The Virginia Cavaliers. The Virginia Cavaliers. I mean, did you see it coming? Here's the rest of Virginia's schedule, by the way. They're 4-1. Their loss was to NC State earlier this year. They play at Louisville next week. Tough game. They play Washington State on the CW 2 weeks later. Then they play at North Carolina, at Cal, Wake Forest, at Duke, and Virginia Tech. Look, it doesn't seem that crazy. It doesn't seem that crazy. I'm going to address that in the second segment. Let me put a final bow here on my instant reaction to Florida State. Their season is not over. I still think Florida State is a pretty good team. I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're pretty good. They have to look themselves in the mirror and say, how did we just let Virginia go up and down? When we play Miami, if you're getting out physicaled by Virginia, if they're running through you, what do you think Miami's going to do? It's gut check time for that Florida State defense. If they're going to have the sort of season they feel like they're probably capable of internally, they still can. They can still make the ACC Championship game. They can still go to the college football playoff. Heck, they could probably lose one more time, and if Alabama goes on to have a really good year, get into the college football playoff at 10-2. I think that's on the table. I think Florida State can get Big Ten or SEC treatment in that regard, as long as Alabama is, I'd say, at least a 9-win team this year. And frankly, that feels kind of dubious because I think they're taking their second loss tomorrow. So it's not over for Florida State, but my number one takeaway was not that the offense has to be better. Nope. Unbelievable conversion on 4th and down. Tommy Castellanos is just a gamer. I mean, led the drive down the field, on the road, hostile environment. All sorts of great things can be said about Florida State's quarterback, about Florida State's run game. Defense let him down. Defense let him down. If that gets corrected, yeah, Florida State could still be good. Castellanos made some great throws. Deuce Robinson had a great game. Catch the ball when it's put right in your lap. I mean, a literally perfect throw. I feel for Tommy Castellanos in this spot. I do. Is he Walmart Kyler Murray? Yeah, but he's fun to watch. He's got a lot of that gamer mentality to him. And unfortunately, his teammates did not pick him up. That's got to be a tough feeling. But if Florida State can rebound, I still think they're good. So I don't give them the worst vibes. That's not where Florida State fans should be. Bad vibes. Bad vibes because you got a big upset. You're going to fall in the ranking. Are you prepared for a ranked Virginia? Boy, you should be. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Chandler Morris's go-ahead touchdown in overtime and the subsequent 2-point conversion for a 46-38 win over number 8 Florida State. That did more than just put points on the board. And Mazda does more than just make cars. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. Time to look back and crown this week's Friday Night MVP on Who Delivered, brought to you by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's talk about those Virginia running backs, because I tell you what, Jamari Taylor, Xavier Brown, those dudes ran hard, and then they ran hard again, and they were physical, and they set the tone. Over 200 yards on the ground. Big for Chandler Morris, who also carried the ball 8 times for 37 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. They delivered for Virginia just like DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Check out DoorDash today. Are you prepared for a ranked Virginia? I hope you are. I hope you are. Sometimes upsets happen, and the AP voters collectively decide this was fluky, doesn't count, it's not a real game. We're going to punish the team that was ranked high, but we're not going to reward the team that won the game. Or at least we're not going to reward them enough. This happened with Georgia Tech. They beat Clemson, and Clemson was ranked where? Top 15? Yeah, top 15? Yeah, Georgia Tech hasn't cracked the top 15 yet. Why? They played, they won, they were the better team. Well, Virginia was a better team on Friday night. Are they going to be rewarded for that? I hope so. I hope so. Are you prepared for Tony Elliott and the Virginia Cavaliers to be ranked? They're going to have everybody's attention right now. I want to go back to the schedule. There is not currently a ranked team on it. I don't know. It seems crazy because of the brand on the side of the helmet. Not that we haven't seen them make a conference championship game before or be a good team over the years, but Virginia, who, by the way, lost to NC State, that's a non-conference game, though. Virginia is 2-0 in ACC play, which is pretty good if you're a Cavaliers fan, 4-1 on the year. So for Virginia, the odds of making the ACC Championship game, they control their own destiny. You got a veteran quarterback. Clearly, you've got an offensive line that lets you run the ball at least a little bit. This was such a gritty performance, and I want to go back to that 4th down conversion they allowed. The students were ready to, as we later learned, unsafely rush the field, And they got that chance, but it didn't happen in regulation. Why? Because Tommy Castellanos, as I mentioned, is a certified gamer. Now, Chandler Morris gets that title as well. Dude was battling an injury at one point in the game, fought his way through. Virginia had a tone-setting touchdown drive. He did whatever it took for Virginia to win this game. When you have 4th down and goal, let me double check real quick on where that touchdown was from. When you have 4th down and goal from the 11-yard line, reminiscent of Texas A&M and Notre Dame, your students were ready to rush the field. Your students were ready to have the moment of their head coach's era, the biggest moment for Virginia football since I don't even know when. I didn't even talk about I didn't make a record prediction for Virginia coming into this year. They were in my preseason ACC power rankings. I had them down at 13th, 1 slot ahead of Florida State, by the way, who I probably had a little bit too low. I probably had Virginia a little bit too low, and Virginia Tech far too high. For those watching on YouTube, you can see. But to go to overtime after your 11-yard play of a stop away from winning and pulling this upset, that takes guts. That takes, you know, that the C word you hear coaches talk about a lot, culture. That takes culture. That takes resiliency. That takes a level of mental fortitude that, frankly, not every program has. You heard it on the broadcast tonight. Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick, by the way, phenomenal broadcasting tandem. Loved listening to those guys all night long. They made the point that Mike Norvell told them, yeah, last year we didn't have enough resilience. We didn't have that, dig deep and fight back sort of mentality. And they showed that tonight. That's a good sign for Florida State, but it's an even better sign for Virginia in this spot. The fans were waiting, and you were about to let them down, and you found a way to win anyway. That's awesome stuff. Awesome, awesome stuff for Virginia. And you know what? I don't even know that I like how much I talked about what the future could hold. Because the last time we talked about an upstart ACC team who was surprising us and playing some good football about, are they going to go to the ACC title? Are they going to go to the college football playoff? They got to enjoy the moment. Virginia's got to just sit back and enjoy this one. What's not to enjoy? Because this is one of the best nights in the history of Virginia football. I believe it's just the 7th time in their program's history that they have beaten a top 10 team when they are unranked. They get to do it at home. It took 2 overtimes. It was long. It was physical. It was an absolute battle. And yet they got it done. How about Virginia? That is the first time I think I've talked about them in the last year on this show. I didn't even give them a record prediction before the season. And guess what? They just beat a top 10 team. College football, we love it, don't we? Yes. Yes, indeed we do. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.